And away we go again. Brody Bro Shears, look at us. We're back for another episode of the Pickup Meeting. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. You know, getting used to doing this podcast, right? You forget little things. We were running a little behind today because I didn't hit the enter the studio button. I'm here looking at the camera, waiting for everybody and
looking pretty, all the things.
And I failed to enter the studio, which is super fun, which kind of gets at the first thing we were going to talk about, which is, you know, we've been doing this now for a little bit, and I think we're learning some things, getting some feedback, which has been mostly positive. But, you know, you always kind of, you hear the things, then you get the notes and you're like, oh, man, yeah, we need to work on that. I need different words for fantastic. Like fantastic is a word that I say a lot. And I remember when I did radio, I needed synonyms for the words like awesome and great, because that just seems to be stuff that I like to use when we're talking to folks.
Let's go with swell.
Swell is good. Yeah.
Right. We can swell. It's been really great to hear from people, listeners, and we can say listeners as we are doing this. We know that there are more than a few of you listening, which is great. We're recording this third episode, and we've heard some feedback on some of the shows so far. It's been great to know that, one, people are listening, and two, that everyone is a critic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. My daughter was saying the other day, you know, Dad, when you and Kevin interrupt each other, you guys just need to own the interruption. That's what they do on all the other podcasts. Just own the interruption. I thought that was hilarious.
In a complete shout out to my former mentor, her guidance was, I really like the show Smartless, and they talk pretty slow, and you should slow down too.
I don't feel like we're talking too fast.
No, I think we're just being us like we would be on the phone, hence the pickup meeting. That's the good goal. Hey, and listen, from the information that we know, we're internationally listened to.
That's right.
Right? So it's not just many of the 50 states, not all of you, looking at you, Nevada, but it is also international with listeners from Canada.
Yeah.
And then we have to use the singular here, listener in Croatia.
That's amazing.
My wife says that she thinks that the Croatian listener is a bot. And I've said, how dare you defame our Croatian listener?
Yeah. I mean, we don't know who it is, but it probably is someone, and not a bot.
Not a bot.
I can't believe bots are mining podcasts on higher ed, academic advising, and student success, right? Like there's nobody that would intentionally bot to that. Wouldn't you agree? Right? Like that's not an algorithm folks are using.
It's concerning if it is.
It is concerning. Hey, start of the school year.
Yeah, I'm super excited. We're recording this here in mid-August, and I think this will be released here in late August, early September.
Yeah.
Beginning of the school year, and such energy that comes back to campus. And it's not to say that all campuses are slow during the May to August timeframe, but those first groups that come back to campus are fantastic. I was walking through campus the other day, and you could hear the drum line of the marching band practicing and getting things going.
Yes.
And it just feels like this really wonderful time frame. I have a little bit of like the Rudy Rudiger walking through the Notre Dame campus as the music's playing around me, and it's just the band playing, down the road.
Yeah, we have the band on our quad right now too, an activity. My office looks right out to the quad. I've maybe mentioned that before, and so it's fun to just take a break from the computer and look out and see new students kind of doing their thing and kind of filling the quad with fun activities, cornhole, DJs. It's a great time to be in higher ed, right? That August, September timeframe, right? The start of the school year, and all the energy and enthusiasm, all the possibilities for our students. It's a great time.
So what are you excited about as you're going into the new year?
Yeah, I mean, I've been here 2 years. I think Illinois State, for example, is a bigger institution. And so to me, I've themed every year, and my theme this year I'm really excited about. Connection is the strategy is my theme for the year. We talked maybe about effort and purpose with Tara a couple of episodes ago. And I just think that sometimes working hard isn't enough. You got to connect. And so I think my unit is big enough that even within our own space, understanding what each of our roles are and what we're trying to accomplish is really important and needs to be intentional. So I'm excited about that theme, right? Getting more connected to folks on campus and within my unit for sure.
Yeah, and I think that there's a time frame in which we hit, and it's right now for me in my world where for folks listening, I have a variety of areas, and we talk a lot about advising and student success on this show, but it's also one of those where I have admissions and financial aid and the registrar's office and veterans and just a lot of groups that are super busy right now. You know, we had commencement over the weekend for summer graduates of grad programs. And so, you know, it's like those things are wrapping up and everyone's focused on what your number's going to be, how many students are you going to bring in. And I've now equated my job to being incredibly similar to a scene in Elf. I know, Brody, a movie that you don't enjoy as much.
No.
But we can talk about that during the Christmas season. But there's a scene in it where Santa lands after going out and delivering all the presents and doing all the things. And they all cheer and they all celebrate. And then he hops down and he says, "All right, on to next year." And then everybody celebrates and goes back to making toys. That's what I feel like my world is right now. I'm still trying to land the ship that is the freshman class and the retention rate and do all the things that we do in our world. And at the same time, I'm putting out new application for students to come in fall 26 and please get applying for next year. And it just does not stop, which is great. It's wonderful job security, but it is also a little much sometimes.
Yeah, it is weird, right? Like I know 10 more students gets us to a certain percentage point, right? In terms of our fall 24 class, right? If we net 10 more, this is where we end up. And we are kind of at that point in the year, right? For folks that are paying attention to retention rates and thinking about metrics and strategic planning, it's definitely that time of the year.
That's right. And I think we're to that time of the podcast where it's time to bring on our guest.
Absolutely. Let's do it. I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, I'm super excited to bring on a fellow faculty member of the Administrators Institute for our listeners. This is episode 3. Yes, it has been 3 faculty members from the Administrators Institute. We're going to break that trend at some point. We eventually run out. But we're very happy to have John Vasquez with us today on the pickup meeting. Welcome, John.
Hey, welcome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you all.
Yeah,
I don't know. I listened to Tara's chat with you all, so I know I'm third in line. So I'm also a little nervous about being a follow-up act to somebody as amazing as her. So, and you, of course.
We've heard this. We've heard this from guest number 2. I got an angry text message from Dana that said, "Why am I following Tara?"
Was Dana was your second?
Dana was the second.
Okay, I feel better now.
Yeah.
I love Dana. Dana knows I love her. We have that love-hate relationship, and it's mostly love.
Yeah.
You know her trying to speak Spanish to me.
That's true. Right.
True, yeah.
It's
love
brutal.
her to death. Te quiero mucho, mi amor. Pero.
Exactly. So, John, I know that you are in the middle of a transition, right? You are transitioning to, I believe this is Assistant Vice Provost for Student Success and Senior Director of the Comprehensive Student Studies Program at the University of Michigan. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's one of these things for listeners that don't know a little bit about you, if you don't mind to just give them a brief introduction and just share a little bit about you.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so this is actually a little bit of a homecoming for me. I've been in higher ed for about 25 years, not including undergrad and grad school and whatnot. I started at the University of Michigan as a staff member in 97 in student affairs. And so I've worked for higher ed, mostly I like to think of my work as the intersection of educational equity, institutional change, and especially nowadays, public accountability. So I'm one of these people that has worked in advising offices, grad schools, research offices, but mostly federally funded student success initiatives, really trying to look at How do we remove barriers for historically marginalized students? How do we engage our minoritized communities, and not just by race and ethnicity? I'm also talking about immigrant communities, rural communities, and doing a lot of that work. And so I worked for Michigan. I actually this fall will be 30 years ago that I came to Michigan as a freshman in the Comprehensive Studies program, which is very much like a TRIO, but at a scale.
Yeah.
And I can tell you more about TRIO if you want to know. But I left Michigan about 10 years ago to kind of look at other pastures, to kind of check out other institutions. So I worked primarily at Hispanic serving institutions, regional comprehensives, community college, some other places. So I have lots of stories and things that we can share about what it's like to go from an R1 to these smaller institutions through COVID, through the first Trump administration.
Yeah.
So we got plenty of stories that we share. But yeah, and I'm very happy to be back at the University of Michigan, not just because of kind of the resources and whatnot, because it really is for me a place that I've been able to take, or I feel like I can take what I've learned at these other places, especially around advising and supporting students, and then really doing it at scale. So I hope that's enough.
It's great.
Yeah.
Two things, John. I didn't know you were that old. Like, you're as old as me, man, almost. Yeah. That's almost, you look way better than I do. That's the first thing. So
that's also true. Yes, that's right.
But like, let's follow up to that. Like, how has that breadth, right, influenced your leadership approach in higher education? Right, you've been at a lot of different kinds of institutions. You've worked in a lot of different spaces within higher ed. How's that influenced your leadership approach?
Well, I think for me, I've had a lot of roles where I always made sure I had to have direct contact with students. And so when I was dean of a grad school at CSU Pueblo, right, I still wanted to meet with students. And my staff were always like, why? You don't need to meet with the students. We do that. And I'm like, no. I want to go and I want to hear them. And I love it because whenever you meet with students, the first thing that other people will tell you is, well, they're going to complain about X, Y, or Z. And to be honest, yes, sometimes they tell you about their struggles, but the other half of the time, they're telling you about all of the stuff that they're so appreciative for, the opportunities we've given, the funding they've gotten. And I think, and for me, I've also done a lot of work where I get to see undergrad research, grad student research. And I'm not going to lie, the stuff that they're doing now is just really amazing. I'll say it this way, at the University of Michigan, I was there when they were creating the quote Life Science Institute and just talking about what is DNA. And now I've come back, and not only do they have a whole research institution, we have undergrads doing research in biomedical, nanotechnology. And I'm like, wow, oh my God, I didn't have to take a science when I was an undergrad. Mine literally was like, you have to take a moons and planet class, which I didn't pass, y'all. I did not pass. I missed it by one question, but I took it, so it counted.
There's only like 9 planets, right, John? There's only like 9 planets.
I told you I failed. So I don't know the answer to that, because Pluto to me is still a planet, and they said it's not anymore. So
I know that is disappointing, really.
Yeah. So yeah, but it's fun. Yeah.
I love the embrace, right, of what you're talking about, and knowing that students are not going to say great things at all times, but on the flip side, wanting to hear the bad or the troubled so that you can also get the good that's there. It's such a process. And you mentioned some of the grant aspect of your life, but like, I'm a big embracer of audits. And if somebody says, oh, well, we'd like to bring a consultant in, bring it on, right? We only get better when we hear the things that need to occur. And so, like, I wonder, as you as you reflect on your experience and trajectory of your career from the comprehensive studies program through the varying aspects of career, including a lot of work in grants and a lot of work in getting money to institutions, like, what are those things that you really think about being transformative in that part of your journey?
That's a good question. I've been reflecting a lot about my experience in comprehensive studies, and again, that program, like TRIO, for folks who aren't familiar with TRIO, comprehensive studies was University of Michigan's version. contrary to popular belief, comprehensive studies is not for, or TRIO are not for like undereducated minority students to give them a leg up. It's not that. TRIO, comprehensive studies, the programs that I've worked with, really are programs that support first generation students, whether they're white, Black, Asian, but particularly low income and like from rural areas. TRIO has some other stipulations for students with disabilities and other things. Same thing for comprehensive studies. Our program has 3,500 students.
Wow.
That's larger than that's a program. That's larger than some of the universities that colleges that I've worked at. I was, when I came as a freshman in 1995, I was in that program. And at first I questioned it, right? Because I had this theory that other people did, which was, I'm Latino, so you're putting me in this program. And I actually had some fellow students tell me that, you're in that program because you're Latino and that's why they let you in. And I thought it to myself and I'm like, yep, I'm Latino, but I'm also from San Antonio, Texas. And there's like nobody else and all the students that were admitted, I never met anybody else from San Antonio. I also spoke Russian, French, Spanish, and English at the time. I also graduated the top 15 of my class, but I was the only one that went to college, outside of Texas for the university. I had been to Russia.
Was Italian too much to learn? Like you didn't want to do that one? Like what was happening?
It was on the list to learn.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah, I had done a pre-freshman, I had done a engineering program in the summers in San Antonio. So I'm like, I deserve to be here. But what I realized is I have no idea how to navigate this space, especially in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I'll tell you, like, I have the pictures and I wish I could show you, but like, just imagine the skinny, curly-haired Mexican with a handlebar mustache, tight Wrangler jeans, a big Texas belt buckle, and the geometric cowboy shirts with a bolo tie. That's how I showed up.
Wow. Very good. Good.
That's how I showed up, right? And
you didn't stick out at all, I'm sure, right? Like you fit right in.
Right. They were like, did you bring a winter coat? And I'm like, I have a windbreaker. And so that was just the beginning, right? That was the first year in 95 that the University of Michigan actually closed. This place never closes when it snowed. And it was just an amazing experience, right? It was just crazy and out of the ordinary for me. I shouldn't say crazy, out of the ordinary for me. And so this program helped me both navigate those things, but also the transition from like being a high schooler to being a student to then being an adult, right? And I didn't realize there were so many rules and things you had to follow and instructions. And not to take this into a serious or turn, but like I came out in my sophomore year and I contemplated suicide. And part of my story that I share with my students a lot, and it had to do with upbringing and where I was from and my family. And so it was my advisor, comprehensive studies advisor, Dr. Dwight Fontenot, he's retired now, who helped me manage that process, helped me get through resources that helped me drop out and then come back in a way that was supportive and in a process. So I was able to graduate still. And I think for me, as now an administrator, those are the lessons, that experience that I had with Dr. Fontenot, with those other students. It really frames how I think about not just what we do for students, but how we do it for students.
You know, John, I've been involved in TRIO now since 2009, right? I wrote the first student support services grant at one of my previous institutions that they had ever written. And one of the things, the word that I love to use is comprehensive, right? How do we know we're serving diverse populations well? I'm like, when we provide comprehensive services to students in the roles that seek to help students navigate, right? And I love that word, and your story is really powerful, right? I think it speaks to the importance of programs like TRIO and comprehensive studies for students coming to campus. I was a first-generation college student, and you know, I had lots of privilege, even with that. But I would say that I went to a Big Ten institution, Indiana University, and man, learning how to navigate that space as a
Mhm.
first generation college student was really challenging.
Yeah, and I think one of the other pieces that I've gotten to do that expanded as I have moved up is in my first roles as directors, working in advising or heading up advising programs. I I helped to do some of this comprehensive. I like to think of it as holistic work in advising at the organizational level. So really helping to stabilize some offices, really helping to help advisors figure out how do we support, especially students who were not used to providing a whole lot of resources. And I'll say it this way, that institutions aren't used to providing comprehensive resources, but we want advisors to do it, right? And
Yes,
so that's a different story, right? So
it
helping
is.
advisors do that. And then now that I've been able to move up, and particularly in this role, looking at my work systemically. So really looking at the systems that we put into place, because a lot of times, people forget. I'm a scholar of higher education administration in particular. These institutions were not created, not for students of color, for women, but also not for rural students, not for students who come from lots of different parts of the US, not to mention international students. And so these systems were really designed for elite folks. And right. And now that our institutions have become more diverse, more open, more inclusive, I know those are words that we're not supposed to be using, but we do, right? They are. We have to help those institutions help support the students that they're saying we want to bring in. And that's a lot of students. So, yeah.
John, I appreciate you sharing, because I think that so often we think about our jobs as being life changing, but even with some of your story that you were just talking about, I don't know that we always view it as life saving. And that's the role that we sit in, and it's so powerful. And so I kind of wonder about your journey within all that you've experienced and gone through, and kind of tying it into a lot of listeners that we have that are a part of the NACADA community. How has that journey shaped how you view advising, shaped that advising philosophy, shaped your approach to development in that student success world, and maybe some of your time as part of the Administrators Institute and the various ways you've been involved tie in there some too?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the best way I can answer that is just, again, sharing an experience that I had. I remember one job that I had. I was, again, I was an administrator. It might have been when I was working at one of the grad schools that I worked at. I had a student that was walking through the hall, and she was very nervous, you could tell she was upset, and she was looking confused. And I'm like, "Hi, how are you doing? Can I help you find something?" And she said, "Thank you." She said, I'm looking for the IRB office. And so for some of your listeners, that's the Institutional Review Board. And I'm like, "Oh, they don't actually have an office. You have to contact them virtually." And she just started bawling. And I'm like, "Oh my God, come in. My office is right here. Let's come in." We started chatting. And so it turns out this was a graduate student who had both a faculty advisor and a staff advisor. And at the graduate level, it's different than undergrad, I understand, but it could be very similar. And she was just like, "I'm trying to follow all the instructions that I was given about getting my dissertation started and doing my research. I did all the training, I followed all the steps, but then I have to get this permission, and it's, I've emailed them and they're not responding. And I'm just frustrated." And then she goes into like, "I have to pick up my kid, and I had to drop her off, and now I have to pick her up, but I have some time in between, so I was stopping by." So in my head, all that's going around is like, here's a student that's trying to follow all the rules, that also has a life outside.
Right.
And obviously we're not meaning to be complicated, but we've just made it really frustrating. And so I'm like, well, first of all, it's okay to cry. I'm like, if I was in your shoes, I cried as well, because it can be really frustrating and overwhelming when you're just trying to do the best that you can. And I mean, you could see she was relieved about that. We talked a little bit more. I gave her the connections we need. And I think for me, that experience is one of those experiences that our students share, whether they're grad students or undergrads, first year, seniors, right? We have these things in place to help support our students. And sometimes they're confusing. Sometimes we drop the ball and they get lost. And it can be really frustrating, especially when they're dealing with stuff outside their lives. And so for me, the question always comes back to kind of like, how are we removing barriers for students? How are we making sure we're not inadvertently hurting some students or making it difficult for them when we don't need to? And for me, the student parent is always the good one for me to start with, because I'm like, if I'm a student parent, can I navigate your processes or get the services I need? Because remember, some of our student parents aren't going to be doing their work or thinking about college until 9 o'clock at night when the kids are asleep. So can they get help at 9 o'clock at night? And that for me is how I think about those things.
Can I follow up a little bit? We've talked, let's move into advising maybe more specifically, but you've talked about systems approaches, and you've helped restructure support systems across several different institutions. So I think you're hitting on this a little bit, but what's a common mistake that you think institutions are making when they try to reform advising or reorganize advising?
Oh, yeah. That's a great question. And we talk a lot about that at the Administrators Institute, because a lot of folks will come in and say, we're here to find out what are the top 5 or 10 best practices in advising that we need to start doing in our advising office. And I love it when they ask that, because I always answer it, well, it depends. And they're like, what do you mean? And it's just like, well, it depends on your resources. It depends on your contacts. It depends who your students are. It depends how much buy-in you have. It depends what your system is. It really depends. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to hear the first time. But yeah, that is the most common thing. And so,
John, as you are starting your new role, I wonder, and if you haven't thought about it, just say, hey, Kevin, knock this off. I don't want to answer the question. But, anytime you're going to lead an office, there's a varying amount of trust and growing that has to come into what you're doing. And so when you look at that transition that you're going through, and given some of the things you just talked about with Brody's answer to Brody's question there, what are ways that you're already thinking about, here's how I'm going to build trust, here's how I'm going to be a part of this team, here's how I'm going to grow and do my best to lead in a new role? Because there are so many folks that are starting new roles in just varying parts of their life.
Yeah, so part of it is trying to get understand the context of your role is really the first thing I tell people. And by that I say, what do people think your job is? Not what is the job description, not as what they did when you were interviewing. If you were good, right, they tell you you're supposed to ask the questions. What are your expectations? What am I supposed to do the first 90 days, the first year? How are you going to evaluate? No. My question, and I've started to talk with some folks, even though my job hasn't officially started at this point. I've gone to meet with people and asked them, so I know what the job description is, but what did they tell you my job was? And for me, it's really important because my role has 2 pieces. One is directing an advising office of 15, advisors. We have a living learning community. We have about 60 lecturers that run some of our courses. But then I'm Assistant Vice Provost, so there's this expectation I do some work at the university level. So my onboarding is also separated, or they're working on it for 2 kind of different roles. And I've already been thinking about, well, what does it mean? Who am I meeting with? Who are the first folks that I'm coming in to meet with? And one of the things that I found out, which I've asked them to correct, is the first day I'm meeting with everybody at the provost level, which is good. But what about my advisors? And so I said, do you have anything scheduled? They already have me scheduled 9 to 4. And I'm like, well, what's at 8? What's at 4? Nothing. Okay, you need to put in time for me to go to talk with the advisors, the frontline folks. And of course, the response is, well, you have 4 assistant or associate directors who will help you manage it. I'm like, I understand that, but that's not the point. The point is this particular office hasn't had a director for 18 months, and they've gone through some searches that didn't go so well. So I'm guesstimating that there's a lot of fear, some excitement, but also like, how is this going to go? Because I can already tell there some of the comments have been, you're here, we're excited, but you're not a full director. And so there's some work that we have to do around not just transitions, but also I like to think of it as cultural reacclimation. There was a culture before with all the other directors, and now there's a new culture with new kind of mid-level folks. And so we need to take some time to build up what that is and how we're going to work together. And I don't see it as anything bad or difficult. I actually think of it as very exciting. But I know it could also be nerve-wracking for folks because they kind of are looking for some sort of stability, not in the sense of a leader, but like, well, how are we function? And so that's going to be some of the work coming in. So that's what I'll be trying to do through listening, talking, and then spending time with folks.
There's an anxiety that comes with that from the folks that are going to be under your umbrella of things. And so it's refreshing to hear that approach of things. And even in your seat, right? You're new. It sometimes becomes difficult when people are planning your day one to just be bold enough to say, hey, there's some things missing here. So kudos for you for doing it. That anxiety on the other side is very, very real.
And while you're new, right? Like you're not really new, right? Like what you are is experienced, right? You understand what's important. You know how you want to shape this role. And even if you're nervous about that, you know what you know. And I think being bold enough to say that is really an important part of starting in any new space.
Thanks. What's really interesting is I used to also work with this department when I was at University of Michigan. I wasn't necessarily in it, but I worked with them quite a bit. A lot of the people have retired now, but some of the during the interview process and doing, some of the initial conversations, a lot of the issues that folks are having are still the same. So that to me is also a signal that like, sometimes we like think, oh, this person is complains or that person is always just complaining. And I'm like, no. If the issues are still there when the people are gone, it wasn't really the people. It was the system. It was the organization that kept creating it. So for me, I know now, like I'm hearing this problem again. Yep. It was really a problem, not the person that was telling me. So, yeah.
Yeah, John, this kind of speaks to, it kind of speaks again to some of your leadership approaches, but we're in a politically charged environment, no matter where you stand, I think. But and I know that the political environment's impacted your work in tremendous ways. But how do you balance maybe the hope and the realism when you're working in complex systems, often under resourced spaces, and then add that political climate to the piece as well?
I've been I've been thinking a lot about that, Cody. It's just Brody.
Did we go with Cody there? I
did there because I'm thinking my brain can only do so much.
You asked too difficult of a question, so while John's thinking of an answer, I'm going to continue with this Cody fun because it's so great.
You stop that, Kevin.
It's the pickup meeting with Cody and Kevin. It sounds like a Disney show.
Hope and realism. Okay. Hope and realism. Balancing hope and realism. Go on now.
Yes. Okay. Balancing hope. So here's the thing. I have been working at under resourced and basically open access institutions since I would say before COVID, during the first Trump administration, during COVID, the second Trump administration, opening up after COVID. And so here are the things that I think about, right? Here's what I've been thinking about during this whole time. I don't know if it answers your question, but one is, how are we removing barriers for students? That's one, right? So my always like, what do students see as a barrier and how are we doing to fix that? Two is, right, who's shaping this? And I'm thinking about especially all the policies after COVID and who got to make those decisions and everything that I was a part of, and that was a whole stressful. And then how are we building systems inside the institution and outside that reflect the students who we're trying to serve, and not just the students, but their families, their communities and things. And so for me, it really is a big part of it is who's the community that we're a part of? Who are we trying to help out? And even University of Michigan, right? A lot of folks like to I don't know what the word, I can't think of the word right now, but they like to write, oh, you bring a lot of outside students. No, we actually serve, we do, but we also serve a big part of Michigan, especially rural Michigan. And so for me, it's those students bring a lot of ideas, a lot of energy. They want to improve when you talk to them about, oh, why, what do you want to do while you're at Michigan? They're like, I want to learn how to be an entrepreneur so I can go back to the UP and like help the businesses flourish. Like to me, that's hope right there. I'm helping a student who's really trying to reinvest in their community. When I think about who gets to shape, right, it is the policies that, the federal government, different administrations bring down on us, but it's also how we interpret them and operationalize them that we have an influence on that. So for me, that's where I have hope in some of this uncertainty moving forward, is we also have to operationalize these things that are coming down, and we can do it in such a way that is both legal, but also supports the values that we say we uphold. And then the removing barriers pieces, we're just always doing that. And knowing that because you identify a barrier, that doesn't mean you did wrong, which is part of the hard part with working with folks, especially in advising. Because every time I work with advisors, they're like, oh, I messed up somehow because I created a barrier. No, you did it. It's like, we have a process here. We have procedures. You didn't create them. You just helped the student identify them, and we're going to work on it. So it's not your fault. That's part of this goal, this role of us moving forward, is constantly changing, constantly evolving to meet the needs of our students.
I think if we start just by being who we say we strive to be, we set ourselves up for success.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, I think the missions and visions and the strategic objectives, they all sound really great, but then nothing we do on the campus automatically moves us through those things in really positive ways. And so that's an important part of that. Appreciate that response.
Yeah.
John, we're at a point where we're making our way through the pickup meeting. You're surviving. It's not too bad. We've done well. But as you think about this with a colleague or whoever, what's the ideal pickup meeting for you? What's the vibe? Where's the location? What's the conversation? What are something that stands out for you?
The pickup meeting for me and my colleagues is going down the street to a brewery, having a beer, sitting out in the backyard underneath the umbrellas. It's Michigan, so it's it's one of the 3 months that we get spring. It's not snowing. It's chatting, and it's chatting, talking about what's going on, talking about Michigan football. I am not a football player, I know nothing about football unless it comes to University of Michigan and the Wolverines. So, although I did go to state, and just talking, shooting the breeze. I'm a bit of a nerd, so I love talking about did you read this article from this higher ed person, blah, blah, blah. And that's fun to me. So
this is why you and Dana get along, because her answer was chocolate martini, yours is brewery. And so
exactly.
There's some collaboration and pick up there.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask one more fun question, then lightning round. How about that? So
okay, go
ahead. We asked this of Dana, and we tried to answer this the other day, but if we gave you a billboard at the NACADA annual conference, what would it say?
Tacos and tequila right here. That will get them to the sessions. I'm telling you.
That's wonderful.
Or at least to you, right? At least to me. Like if you're holding up the billboard, they're coming to you.
Right.
Very good. All right, we're to a lightning round here. And as you've listened, the lightning round is sometimes not so lightning-ish, but we're going to do our best. A song that always gets you hyped before a big presentation.
I do know this. Oh, my God. It's right here. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Oh, no. Did we lose John?
No, I'm right here. I'm just paused. I can't think. I'm stuck. I'm mentally constipated. I know this song, but I can't say it. Okay, next. Can I call a friend?
Yeah. If you weren't doing higher ed work, what would you be doing? What would your dream job be?
Border Collie Rescue.
Border Collie
Rescue. I volunteer for that's where we got our dog. So you get to pick up Border Collies at different parts of the U.S. and drive them cross country to their new homes.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
If you know it, what is your Enneagram type? Or, more importantly, your Hogwarts house?
Oh, I think I did this, and I am Hufflepuff.
All right. I don't know what that means, but I've seen the movies, but it's...
You all are speaking a foreign language to me. I may be the only person in the whole world that's not read any of the books or seen none of those movies. And I'm now at a point where I'm taking significant pride in that. And so we'll just leave it at that.
Loyal, trusting, practical. Hufflepuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Brody.
What's your most used emoji?
Oh, the upside down face, the upside down confused face. Like, how the hell is going on? I use it all the time.
What's the one thing you refuse to travel without?
My antacid pills.
Oh, it's important when you're traveling. No doubt.
Yeah. Sorry, it is. It's true. Like, I wish there were so many other things, but I forgot. And I'm like, nope, got to turn around, go back to the house. It's an hour away. Got to go back and get those pills.
What's one skill you wish you had?
Calligraphy. There's something about fancy writing. I feel like I want to be able to write a fancy note to someone because I feel like they can't say no matter what it is.
Your dream dinner guest, living or dead?
Oh my God.
I know, right? Like I gave you the music one and you came up with nothing. And now you're going to be like, I don't know any living or dead people. I don't know what to do here.
That I would want to. Famous? Not famous? Just in general,
says dream dinner guests.
Oh.
We make up the questions, but we don't change them later.
I do know who this is. It would be Adele. Because I want to be her new GBF.
Okay. That's fantastic. John, who knew that our lightning round questions were going to be the hardest questions you were going to have?
They are.
Let's see here. What's the strangest or most unexpected job you've ever had?
For a minute, I was a preschool, quote unquote, teacher aide, whatnot. So I did it for like a semester. Kids liked me. I was a good. I don't know why. They just looked at me and they were like, "I want to hang out with you."
That's great.
I like this one because I'm usually excited about the conference cities, and I'm a big Orlando fan. So, John, what is your favorite conference city you've been to?
I talked to Jen a lot, so I feel like I'm under the gun now if she's going to hear this. My favorite city. You know what? I really had a great time. It wasn't for the admins too, but when we had the national conference at Portland, I liked Portland.
Yes. Portland.
I like to visit. Yeah, not to live there.
Food was great, no question about that. Yeah.
Oh, the breweries were really good.
Yes. What's a guilty pleasure? TV that you're watching right now? Something on Netflix? Something on Hulu? Like, is there something you're watching?
There's a couple of things I'm watching. Some old school, some of them new school. So I'm going through my reruns of Buffy in anticipation for the reboot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Fun.
I'm also watching The Gilded Age because you know what? I just love all those women in the fancy costumes and just love the way they talk. Again, that goes back to the calligraphy thing. I feel like writing letters, watching that. And then the other thing that I love watching, I'm interested in watching now is Foundation on Apple. Because, so sci-fi, horror, fancy women from, the Gilded Age.
Times.
Yeah.
This is Brody and I's chance to pitch, if you're talking sci-fi, that if you haven't watched Resident Alien, you need to, because it just wrapped up its show, but it is a fantastic one.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we should look at that.
Goofy, fun, just really great.
If your life had a tagline right now, what would it be? And yes, I'm asking you hard ones now because I think it's a lot of fun.
No animals were harmed in the making of this video, except a human.
That is fantastic. I'm just going to say it, right? Like, that's great.
That's what I think of, yeah.
So last one, you get an entire free day, no meetings, no emails. How are you spending it?
Ooh, I'm going kayaking and then eating some my favorite lunch, maybe at Zimmerman's, trying out Obama sandwich, and then ending at a brewery, sitting outside, drinking something local and sour.
That is fantastic. John, we are so pumped that you decided to do this, decided to join us, decided to go down the bold path of saying yes and putting yourself out there. So thanks for being a guest with us today. Brody, how fantastic was this?
Yeah, I think we should just keep saying fantastic, 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 fantastic. It was awesome.
Oh, it was a good time, and here's the thing: anytime you're able to learn a little bit and hear about the journey that people have been on in their careers, like how fantastic is that opportunity? And yes, I'm going to keep going fantastic, because it's just it speaks to the power and the influence and then the opportunity that we all have in the chairs that we sit in. And I keep coming back to that thought that John kind of led us into there with, we often think about the fact that we're changing lives, and just depending on those situations, that power could be even greater. And those moments can be really, really powerful for us to be a part of.
Yeah. There was one thing that he said that's been kind of still hitting my brain really hard. And that is the impact of interacting with students on the regular, right? Even in our roles as administrators, I don't spend a ton of time with undergraduate students anymore in my job. And then every time I talk to undergraduates or even graduate students in my space, I'm just reminded, like, gosh darn it, this is where it's really at. Like, this is why we're doing the work. And I think finding intentional ways to interact with undergraduate students, even in our roles. When I think about connection as the strategy is my theme, it's one thing I'm going to take away from our conversation today. Like, I've got to make certain that I'm doing some things this year where I'm interacting intentionally with undergraduates and learning more about their experience. That just has stuck with me in the hour that we've spent today with John.
So as we get to an end here, like, what's on your mind? Like, what's going on?
I was thinking about this today. Like, I'm starting to feel good about exercise again. I'm really ready to get back on the horse there. Like, I'm thinking about that. Doggone it. How about you? What's on your mind? Like, I don't know. I'm coming up blank, just like John did.
I really think this is that time of year where it's just, I'm stuck in a lot of thoughts. I'm stuck in that thought of being 18 years old on a college campus. And I have a 16-year-old that is going to start touring college campuses this fall, and the anxiety that comes with that, and some of the fear that comes with the unknown that is that journey for a 16-year-old, even though he has a parent that works in the field and two parents that graduated from college and all of those things, and he still has that anxiety. And so I think about all of those people that are coming to our college campuses and the journey ahead of them. I'm really stuck in that thought. And then for the folks that are, coming to campus that have been there previously, that they're living this very exciting time frame of their life that we all look back on with fondness and excitement and reminiscing in those moments of transformation and change that John was talking about. Where he's at today is a long way from the belt buckle and windbreaker of his first trip to Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yeah.
We all have a little bit of that, not the belt buckle part. That's just John.
It is just John.
But
and maybe people in Texas.
That's right. And so it's just, I think about that, where people are at and how to meet them where they're at, because the journey can be such a powerful one. And I just think about the role and the impact I get to have with that. And this time of the year, I think it's probably more palpable that we're really just sitting in that seat of being those people and other people's lives and other people's journeys.
Yeah, when you were talking, the one thing I was thinking about is, I've worked at 3 or 4 different places in my professional life. And John, I think, spoke to this very well. But every single place that I've ever been has kind of framed who I am today. Like, you grab small things from environments, from different campuses, and it really kind of builds your approach to the work, right? And we talked with Dana in our last episode, and Dana had spent her entire career on the same place, and I think there's real great advantages to that too. But in my experience, like, it's just been so helpful to see higher ed in many different lights, right? And it informs the way that we work with students. It informs the way that we think about systems on the campuses where we work. And I've just found tremendous value in that breadth and depth of experience. Maybe that's what I'm thinking about right now. It's made me who I am, right? Like I'm grateful for my experiences at all the places I've served, right?
Yeah. For the question you asked, John, what would you be doing if you weren't in higher ed? That one's so difficult because you're right. It has shaped who we are and how we've gotten to this point. And I don't know the answer to that question. That's a tough one. I mean, there are a lot of things that it could be, but wow, like it's a powerful one. But here's a good transition for us, Brody, as we wrap up some thoughts that are outside of higher education. It's the start of football season. That's happening.
Yes.
And so, like, are you excited about the upcoming football season, NFL, college, any of the things that you think about happening there?
Yeah. Didn't Hootie and the Blowfish sing "The Dolphins Make Me Cry"? I think that I want to be hopeful, right? Like I'm this massive Miami Dolphins fan living in central Illinois. And people are like, how did that happen? And I always have to tell them, my mom went to high school with Bob Greasy, who's a Hall of Fame quarterback for the Dolphins, won a couple Super Bowls in the 70s. And I just grew up loving the Miami Dolphins. And then before I really knew what I was supposed to do, Dan Marino came along, and then I was kind of hooked. And so it's been a love-hate relationship. The Dolphins haven't won a playoff game since 2000. I think it's the longest non-playoff win drought of any team right now in the league. I'm not hopeful.
we had a plumber that came over to the house yesterday or Monday to fix something, and we handed him our credit card, which had a Minnesota Vikings logo on it. Of course it does. And he said, "Oh, I want to be a Vikings fan." And I said, "Well, why aren't you?" And he said, "I somehow got into it with the Dolphins and I just can't quit them." And I thought that's a terrible place to be when you want to be the fan of another team, but you just can't quit the Dolphins.
I know.
So I'm looking forward to this fall. As a Vikings fan, I love the football aspect of things, whether it's college or professional, although those lines are pretty blurred right now.
They are.
And I love the fact that today John is starting his new role at Michigan, and he comes in with the pride of the Michigan blue and gold on, and just ready for football season. And so it's an exciting time, whether you're welcoming students back to campus or just those things that make that fall time frame a little bit more special with just some football and sports and camaraderie and energy and optimism of what our teams will do.
Yeah, and we apologize, right? If you're not a fan of football, maybe you're a fan of the marching band, which you can get excited and hyped up about the marching band too, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not a big The Ohio State fan, but their band is killing it every year, and I'll watch that every time.
Whatever gets you excited about the new academic year, if you're listening in higher ed, we hope you enjoy the start of the school year. That's for sure. But I think we got to call it a day today, don't we?
That's right. Good job to everyone. Thank you to our guest, John Vasquez, for joining us. Huge thanks to our, I don't know what title should we give Matt in this? Is he like our executive producer? Let's say that.
Yeah, Matt Markin.
Oh, yeah. John or Matt, yes, executive producer Matt Markin. Let's put John back on for just a second.
Guys, I finally remembered while you were talking. My song is Impossible by Chantel.
Oh, that's great.
That's fantastic.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye. All right, for John and his impossibilities, we're going to sign off today. Until the next pickup meeting, keep showing care and keep showing up.
Yeah, do good.